mighty who dat nation. Let me hit y'all with this one, fam. This is another one, 2026 financials. This is straight from Sporak. One of the resources I use for all things that is Saints money and others as we talk about it. This is the financials for the upcoming season. We talked about this. Shout out to them for putting this out here. But it's basically breaking down what the Saints' future looks like after, the season is over with. A lot of money comes off the books. This is the year when we see a lot of money come off the books for the New Orleans Saints, and they truly become a young team, right? A lot of these players are going to be out of here. So let's look at it. 2026 roster currently possesses 43 contracts. However, 4 of those, Cam, Demario, Taysom, and Foster Moreau, contain voids that will convert to dead cap without a preceding extension. That means this leaves New Orleans with about $14 million in the hole in terms of the 2026 cap space as of today. So as per usual, plenty of work has to be done. $14 million in the red, that is, fam. The Saints currently hold 8 draft picks, including 3 fourth rounders. 1 is a projected comp pick and 2 fifth rounders via Seattle. New Orleans traded away their own 4th round pick in acquiring Devon Valley from Denver prior to the 2025 season. Now, the early questions are, has Tyler Shough shown enough to assume the QB1 position heading into the 2026 season? Y'all tell me in the chat if you believe that. And are the Saints turning the page on notable core players like Taysom, Cam, and Elvin? With $91 million of dead cap already allocated to the books for next year, how aggressive can this team be next season? Well, let's answer these questions one at a time. Has Tyler Shough shown enough to assume the QB1 position? In terms of what I think, I still want to see these next 4 games, and I'll make my, opinion after these 4 games. Can he sustain on some of the positive stuff? And I know he's a rookie, but you still want to be able to see progress and the fact the guy's picking it up. Are the Saints turning the page? They have no choice. The page is burnt. It's over with. Hill, Jordan, and Elvin's still here, but Hill and Cam and Demario, their contracts is up, so that's over with. And of course, the 91. Can they be aggressive next season? Well, that's yet to be determined, right? With if they have all of these draft picks, obviously what they're doing is they are going to try to pick through the draft. That's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to build and put themselves in a position where they're in the draft and use that to their benefit to try to be able to build cheaper. That's the point of this. And they're not going to chase high-priced free agents this year, in this upcoming year. They're not. That's why they have all the draft picks. That's why they went back and traded players for draft picks. That's the talking point. This is the stuff we talked about when we were facing and dealing with the black and gold before. We talked about Gil Benson. Gil Benson wants to dial back the spending for both these teams, Saints and Pelicans. That's why they rely on the strategies are the same in terms of draft. Now, you will look at the Saints this upcoming year with all these draft picks, with all these big contracts fall off, there'll be $14 million in the hole. Outside of that, they'll rework contracts and get that money up, but they'll use a lot of these picks they'll make a few trades and all this kind of stuff. Just a couple of them made trades before, but they'll be draft building through the draft. That's the point. And they'll do the same thing with the Pelicans. They're going to try to get rid of DeJounte Murray, who's $30 million player. They're going to try to get rid of Jordan Poole, who's a $30 million player. They're going to try to get rid of Zion, who's a $39 million player. They're going to try to package, like they saying the Pels don't have any draft picks this year. They'll package players if they have to be able to get draft capital to keep building. Because what Joe Dumars did on that side, getting Fears and Queen and Peavy, those guys turn out to be real good bets. And also getting a guy like Sadiq Bey for half of the contract of Herb Jones, even though he's out playing Herb Jones. That's big as well. So you can see some crafty motions and movements. That's the identity going forward. Just to drop that on you. Now let's hit this as we keep it going, right? This is the notable free agents, right? And then, of course, fam, I'm going to have for Patreon, fam, I'm going to do a series of mock drafts that I'm going to be doing on Patreon starting this month, where I'm going to release my first mock draft, I think, by this weekend. And it'll be a live draft so y'all can see what I'm doing. And then I'll kind of give my thought process on why I'm doing this and this sort of thing. But this is the thing. Alontae Taylor, he's a current Sport Track APY evaluations, right, on the monies. Alontae Taylor at $10 million. Demario at 9.5. Luke Fortner, 7.5. Cam is 6.1. Foster is 2.5. Dylan Redunce is 2.5. Taysom is 1.2. These are the notable free agents. Now, of course, out of all of these guys, Luke Fortner at 7.5. The Saints might want to bring him back. We know Dylan Redunce. The Saints might be looking at. They have all these picks. You might see them drafting a new offensive lineman or something like this. We can see, but based on the money, the Saints' top free agent signee is Alontae Taylor. Right? How much do they spend for Alontae Taylor? Let's analyze the 5th-year option decision. They'll pick up on Brian Bresee. 29 out of Clemson has shown the ability to get the QB, but probably doesn't hold a full enough total resume to warrant a fully guaranteed option salary. You know, they might decline the option, but then, you know, like we've done this before. We've done it with Cesar Ruiz when they decline the option and then they work out a contract the same year that's befitting of it. Would love to keep Brian Bresee here. The numbers does not indicate the fact that you'll get an accelerated thing. So, you know, that's what it is. But Chris Olave, despite the interest, the Saints elected to keep Olave, and they're working on his extension. So 25-year-old is a much trade candidate in the coming months, but I don't know. They're currently valuing toward a 4-year contract at $8 million. $80 million is what he's looking at. I don't know. We'll see. The bubble candidates, Alvin Kamara at 11.5 in 2026, $3 million if it's already fully guaranteed. Is this a release and pay cut candidate? Are they good with Devin Neal? Do they draft another running back? Is it good to have an expensive Alvin Kamara on a team where you got young rookie talent, or do you want to start all over again? Alvin wants to remain here for the rest of his career. You know, the Saints will have to look at that. Offensive lineman Cesar Ruiz. New Orleans 26-year-old interior lineman has 2 years and $19 million on his contract. 2.6 of it's already fully guaranteed. Turning players like Ruiz into draft assets seems the right move for the Saints in their current window. A pre-draft trade would mean $14.2 million dead cap stays, with New Orleans making it nearly a cap neutral move. Do the Saints trade Cesar Ruiz? We talked about that during the break. Pete Werner is more likely to be a trade candidate for the Saints because Danny Stutzman is here, but then again, maybe not. Demario Davis is leaving, so does Pete Werner and Danny Stutzman become your new starting linebacker tandem in the 4-2-5 system that Coach Staley likes to run? That's yet to be determined. But with Demario out of the way, it does open up the spot for Pete Werner to remain. So does any of these bubble candidates leave? You know, does any of them? Do they see Cesar Ruiz as a liability like you do? Potential cap conversions. The Saints still, despite the lack of winning, a full salary conversion on Chase Young opens up almost $11 million. The counterpart, Carl Granderson, can free up over $9 million with restructure. So you can see a bunch of that money. Chase Young's money, almost 11, Carl over 9, Jawan Johnson's fully guaranteed. So converting some of it, he'll free up over 6. Same goes for Justin Reed, who can free up over 6. You know, with that being said, the Saints can roughly free up, if they rework those contracts, well over $20 million.